Hi, my name's Nicole and I run an HR consultancy called NMT HR Services Limited. And Susan has asked me to pull together this tutorial for you to help you to get onto your GDPR journey, to give you some simple tools and techniques to get you started, give you some background information, and give you some more detail on the new rights that the general public will have around how you process, store and hold their data. So I'm just going to share with you a PowerPoint presentation and then I'll talk through the slides with you. Okay, so hopefully you will see the presentation on your screens. And the sorts of things that we're going to go through quickly are what is GDPR, so just a very quick rundown on what it is, what the data is covered under GDPR, the new rights that individuals have under the new regs, who's responsible in your business for data protection, how you can start to become compliant and where you can start in terms of checklists and processes, data belonging to children and vulnerable adults, and any data breaches, how you can handle those within your business. We're also going to look at how long you should keep data and then the training and development of your staff. So just as an introduction, as a small business, you're probably familiar with the Data Protection Act. And there's certain obligations that you have under that Act when handling someone's personal data. So generally, the data protection rules are changing and the Data Protection Act is going to be replaced by the General Data Protection Regulations, which are coming in on the 25th of May 2018. So it's EU regulations. However, notwithstanding that the UK is coming out of the EU, they will still need to comply with these regulations. Any business operating within the UK after the 25th of May will need to comply with GDPR. So GDPR does impose greater accountability on businesses handling personal data, and it does give more rights and controls to individuals around how the personal data that you hold for them is managed. So generally speaking, if you process personal or sensitive personal data within your business, as a data controller or a data processor, and we'll have a look at those two different roles shortly, then the GDPR will apply to your business. You must consider data protection at the start of any new project to determine the risks that it may pose and how they can be addressed. Now, there are going to be increased fines and penalties under GDPR. So the Information Commissioner's Office, which is the official body which controls how we process data, does have the right to impose increased fines and penalties under the new regs. But it's not just a risk in terms of fines. If you're a small business, the last thing you can afford is to have any reputational damage or lack of trust and confidence by your clients in how you're handling their personal data. And I think if that's what you focus on more than potential fines, then you're starting in a good place. It's looking at best practice within your business and what you would be expecting if it was your personal data that somebody was handling and processing on behalf of you. So there's two types of personal data. There's personal data and sensitive personal data. So personal data is any data relating to a natural person. And that includes what we call identifiers. So that could be their name, their date of birth, their NI number, or the benefits number and their address. It could be that a phone number or any photo that can identify the individual is also personal data. There's also a category known as sensitive personal data. So this could be things like medical conditions, financial information, income, visa numbers, bank details. And it also includes health, racial origins, political opinions, sex life, commission of offence, and biometric and genetic data. So, for example, if a salon is asking one of their clients to provide some medical information to them because they have a legitimate reason for asking that of their clients before they start any treatments, then that would be classed as sensitive personal data. And you just need to be aware that there are tighter regulations around how you handle and process sensitive personal data. Now, the GDPR also introduces some new rights to individuals. These are our rights as well, because we're general public and people handle and process our data. So just keep thinking about it in those terms. So the GDPR introduces individual rights to be informed, and that's about why you're processing the data, what you're going to use that information for, where it's stored, if you pass it on to anybody else. They also have the right to access the data, so they can come along to you at any time and ask to have copies of any data that you hold on their file or on their behalf that identifies them as who they are. They also have a right now to rectification, and what that means is if they believe that any information that you hold for them is incorrect, then they have the right to come along to you and ask you to put it right. Or it could be that they think that you've made a mistake somewhere along the line and they want that put right. They also have the right to restrict processing. So if they believe that the data is incorrect, or you haven't got a lawful basis for processing that data, they're just two examples, they can come along and say to you, we don't want you to process our data anymore. They also have the right to data portability, which means they can ask you to share their data with somebody else across software platforms, for example, as long as the platforms are compatible, but they do have that right to ask you to share their data with somebody else. They have the right to object to you processing the data, again, if they don't believe that you have the right lawful basis for processing their data, or they believe that the original reason that you had is changed. They're just two examples. Then they can object to you processing their data. They also have the right to be forgotten or erased from your systems, and they have the right to ask questions as they deem fit or as required. And there's also new rights relating to automated processing or decision making, which includes profiling. So what I've done is in this webinar, there's a link to a checklist for you to go through, and that's all around the first individual's rights, which is their right to be informed. So you can work your way through and have a think about how you would comply with that individual's right.